My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And decided to pay a little homage to our guest this episode and start things off by cracking my LaCroix. So, that LaCroix is still keeping me going in my quest to end in my soda intake. Still going strong. I ended up stopped for fast food a while back one morning and ended up getting this. I ordered a tea. They gave me a soda, and I took a sip of it, and it was like, oh, this doesn't taste good. And then I was like, this doesn't taste good.
That's all right. I'll pick up your slack. We're good.
Yeah. So for those of you not joining us on YouTube, Robert decided that the burdens of manhood were just too much to bear and decided to shave off his amazing beard that he had going over the hunting season. So,
yep. So yeah, the end of January and the end of duck season in North Carolina, it goes away. Even though I did not hunt at all this year, that has been kind of my ritual at the end of January, last day of duck season. But with the new job and everything going on and kids ball and stuff like that, just ready to go. This is my fishing face, so I'm ready to get out there and do some fishing.
Absolutely. Speaking of, I hinted at it the last episode, but we were able to get out and do a little bit of fishing a couple weekends ago. And we were ill-equipped for what we encountered. Saw a lot of fish on the graph, and
that's where they stayed.
That's where they stayed. Yeah, that's right. I just didn't have anything that I could get down there to them with. I was not prepared for them to be down in the
still in the depths.
I was not prepared, to be completely honest with you, for Lake Wheeler to be that deep. I was not expecting to see depths of 25, 26 feet. But that's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, we've got an awesome episode. And for those of you who are not aware, or do not decide to read the title of this episode before you clicked on it, we've got probably spoiled the guest for you there at the beginning, but we've got Armando, Sola, and Dan Perry coming back on the podcast because they have ventured off and started their own new stuff. So let's say thank you to a couple sponsors, and then let's get them in here.
Sounds good. Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. And I've got to get a new mouse. I still have them. It's like doing the double click on me. But yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. We've got Armando and Dan from the Bass Kayak and Beers Podcast Network now. And man, I don't know about you, but whenever I saw that they kind of branched off and did their own thing and saw what they were doing with it, I got really excited because Armando's show itself has been absolutely fantastic since it started, really, and getting really down like that, just kind of like the new show is called, like Real Life. You know, it's just finding out who these anglers really are, and then Dan coming in with the advanced kayak angler, and I have already learned so much that I'm excited to use. So yeah, man. What are your thoughts on the new?
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Armando's show is on speed dial, as well as the stuff that Dan does too, and also followed Dan along with the KFL stuff last year. So it was fun to hear him talk about that stuff. But you know, I listened to a little bit of each one of those in the last couple of weeks. It took me a second to find it because I just had Paddle and Fin automatically just comes up. But now that I have theirs set on there too, theirs automatically come up too. And I think that those guys probably did a good thing. And I think on the Paddle and Fin, there's a lot of great shows, and I love them all. But I do think that you can kind of get lost in the shuffle of everything that's going on with Paddle and Fin. So I think that these guys are the shows are great, and I think that they're going to do great as standalone shows. And I actually think being part of that many shows probably took away from what both of these guys can do. And we've already seen that in the first few episodes they put out. So I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. Well, let's stop gushing over these guys and get them in here. Armando.
What's up, gentlemen?
And welcome back.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
What's going on?
And I appreciate the kind words. It really does mean a lot to us.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So now Dan and Armando, y'all are joining Josh Carter and Jackson Orr as the most prolific Faith and Fishing guests.
All right.
I know that is a massive honor that you are not expecting. But,
but both of those guys are great. That's awesome.
Anytime you get mentioned the same sentence as Jackson Orr, that's a good thing.
Yeah, for real. Josh too.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely. So I know Armando has not liked to say it in the past, so I will say it. The Bass Kayak and Beers Podcast Network, sponsored by Douglas Rods, is here in the house. So Armando, Dan, tell us how this idea came to be.
Go ahead, Armando.
Well, I mean, I started off by myself, and about almost a year into it, I got the call from Brian Schiller from Paddle and Fin to join Paddle and Fin, and to me at that time was a no-brainer. The business model back then was different from when we both left, when both Dan and I left, which was at the end of last year, 2022. And I think that was the biggest reason for me to make the move. I respect what the guys, especially Brian Schiller, is doing in Paddle and Fin. He is literally the hardest working person behind the scenes that you never heard of. Not that you haven't heard of Brian Schiller, but you know, his name may not come up the pages of some of the bigger names out there in kayak fishing, but the job that Brian Schiller does behind the scenes He's a workhorse. His work ethic is unquestionable. And I think I blessed opportunity to meet him in person and get to work with him in ICAST and got to work with him in Paddle and Fin. The lessons that I've learned about how to grow your podcast in an organic way is something that I'll never forget. And you know, Brian and the whole Paddle and Fin crew has, you know, me and Dan, and we can both say we have their backs, and we hope people continue to listening to them as well as they continue to listen to us. But at the end of the day, it was more of the business model had changed from when I started. There was a lot more commercials. Back when I started, there wasn't any commercials. We partnered up with Waypoints, and it just, for me, for my taste, it was like, in some cases, almost 7 minutes of commercials. And you know, I heard it from my listeners, you know, that they didn't really appreciate it, and also I didn't have control of what was being, you know, sponsored in my podcast. You know, if some organization decided they wanted to, you know, promote some of my podcast, and I don't believe in their model or whatever it is, then I had no control over it. And to me, that's very important. Whatever is attached to the Bass Kayak and Beers and my name, I need to approve of it. I need to believe in whatever the motto is, whether it's a private entity or nonprofit entity. And to me, it just came down to that, and also having more control of what I wanted to do. With Paddle and Fin, everybody had their own lane. You know, we have the Bass Fishing for Noobs, which was, you know, learning techniques, educational, kind of like bass fishing, kayak fishing. And then there was the Reel Down, which covers tournaments and so on and so forth. There's also the Final Cast, part of Review Stuffs and Nickels, Saltwater Series. And I just didn't want to get pigeonholed into I can only do this type of episodes. So that for me was a big deal. And Dan can elaborate on his reasons as well.
Yeah, that was really, I mean, it's everything Armando said. Whenever you have, you know, I was on the Reel Down for 3.5 years, and that was great, but it's a very tight lane of doing tournaments, and I just felt like doing something else, and that wasn't possible at Paddle and Fin because I would have been overlapping with too many other shows because there's so many shows. So it wasn't even wanting to just leave Paddle and Fin. It was just, you know, it was really the only choice. And Armando, he's great at content and everything else, so it just worked out good to where, you know, his skills met up with my lack of skills. So yeah, following up under him, and he was able to do, you know, the posting, things like that. So it worked out. It's been a great partnership so far. So yeah.
Yeah, and Dan, to elaborate, Dan is great at some areas that I'm not great at. I mean, Dan's resume as far as a tournament angler and his knowledge is unparalleled, and that's something that I don't have the experience, so I can't bring that to the table as effectively as Dan does. So I may have some areas where I may excel, but then Dan has some areas where he excels, and it's kind of the yin to the yang. We both kind of like make each other stronger and better when we team up.
Yeah, his shows are he's much, I mean, on a different level of interviewing people and getting in depth and kind of the soft skills of people, and I'm more detailed numbers, things like that. So, but like you said, we're opposite in our shows. Like we could both have on the same guy back-to-back episodes, man or woman, and it would be a totally different show, just, you know, because the questions that we ask are so different. So it's totally been great.
Yeah, your skill sets definitely complement each other very well. That's something that's always important in a partnership, and like your shows reflect that. Like it's they're so different, but they're like y'all fit together really well, and I've really been enjoying it so far. Absolutely. So
it is very difficult, though. I mean, whenever you're saying, you're going from a certain amount of listeners or watchers every show, if you're starting over, and to me, a podcast, same as YouTube, is almost like building a catalog. Like, you're not worried about that show that you're building, but you're building a catalog of shows, and to start that over, go on a different, under a different name. And it just, it's kind of like starting over, but hopefully you build up enough of a reputation and enough of a followership where some of those people have come. And we've had, we've been very fortunate. We feel good about where we're at right now. And every week that it's growing and growing as people are, following us to over there. Like, where'd my show go? Like, I haven't seen it in a couple of weeks. Where'd it go? And, so the numbers are growing, and yeah, but it was a big step, and it was difficult. If you have individual sponsors or whatever else, you're giving them less of a return on their investment. I have 4 sponsors. I don't have a whole lot, but it definitely, I feel like I'm giving them less back. So maybe I'm trying to make that up in other ways. That's just how I've thought about it. Like, I want to return what they've given me the best that I can, and taking a hit and going to a different podcast has been, it was a big step. So yeah, I take all that stuff seriously. So, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and another thing is to elaborate on that. The thing is, obviously, Paddle and Fin is such a big brand, and you do get a lot of listeners, especially with waypoints. But the flip side of that, I think, once you were trying to get sponsorship, because the sponsorship that you reach out to, like, the Paddle and Fin has their own sponsorship. We don't see any of that money. That just goes into covering the cost of Paddle and Fin and covering the meetups that they do annually, which for me and Dan were too far away to make it on a drive. So we really didn't see the benefits of the sponsorship.
I fished so many tournaments, I didn't have the vacation time to take part of the benefits of being a Paddle and Fin host. So.
Yeah. But I think when you reach out individually to say, hey, looking for sponsorship and you have those conversations, company's going to listen to your episode. And when they listen, it's just like, this is like 5 minutes of commercial, 6 minutes in some cases. They're going to be less, they're going to be like, wait a minute, my promo is going to get lost in all that time.
It could be a battery too. Like any kind of company where Paddle and Fin or Waypoints is promoting a certain battery brand, then you try to bring on a battery brand, they're like, you've already got one, but you're not seeing any of that. So it's not about money. It's just about creating relationships and things like that. It's difficult to do whenever they think you already have an ongoing relationship, I guess. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever you don't have control over those targeted ads, it would be very easy for like somebody like a battery company or something like that. Like, that's going to be the main thing that they're targeted for is batteries. So like whenever they go to listen to it, they're going to be hearing a lot of competition and stuff. So there is definitely that side of it. And I just want to reiterate, we're not throwing shade at Paddle and Fin at all.
No. We love those guys. The worst part is not being in the group chat. Like, I really feel like I've missed, like I'll see a meme or I'll see a video or something. I'm like I'm ready to send it to them. And it's like, I'm not, I wish I was still in that group. I love talking to those guys. So no,
you can send it to us.
It's difficult.
And again, it's a business model. It's not like we're not throwing jabs at it. That's the business model. And obviously they built something special with it.
Yeah, I think that, it definitely has a lane for Paddle and Fin, just because every day something new's coming up in that Paddle and Fin feed in your, mine. I just have everything saved and it just comes up what I'm listening to that day. And I always know, okay, Paddle and Fin's got this on this day, and you just get so used to it. But at the same time, I don't think people realize, and I didn't realize either, the amount of time and effort and work that it goes into to do a podcast. And so I can just imagine you guys are doing podcasts, you're putting in all this work or whatever, and then you can't get all the benefits of it because Paddle and Fin already has a set of sponsors, and then that just leaves the room for you guys to grow your sponsorship even less. So I think that's one thing people don't realize is the amount of time and effort it goes into producing, putting on, getting the guest. You know, there's just a lot of stuff that goes on that even when I was listening to it, of course, I knew there was more work involved. I was doing some YouTube videos and stuff, so I know there's behind the scenes stuff, but it's more than what the average Joe would think that it is, for sure.
I love it too. Like, I can tell you, in the 3.5 years I've been being a podcast host, I don't know how many kayak fishing podcasts have like went to the wayside. Every week, it's not a grind. It's fun because, it's the only reason we're doing it, because it's enjoyable. But to do it for a long period of time, that's the tough part of podcasting, is being consistent. Keep doing it over and over and do it for a long amount of time and have that catalog. And it's one of those things that slowly snowballs. It takes so long, but I enjoy it too, or I wouldn't be doing it, obviously.
You have to love it, because and only that. I mean, this, Cam and Robert, it costs money too. When I started, you can find a ways to, if you're just starting to do it kind of for free. But now, if you want, once you see that you're getting more listeners and you want to expand on it, even like StreamYard, it's like what minimum is like $500, something like that, just annually. And to have the mics, you have the mics, the cameras, the equipment, plus you have the streaming services, and that's a monthly fee. It could easily get up north of $2,000 doing a podcast for really nothing at the beginning, nothing in return. So you really have to be passionate about it. You need to not just kayak fishing or fishing in general, but the podcast, love, because, and Dan can speak to this as well. There's times where you get into that podcast rut that you feel like I need an injection of creativity. I feel like I'm doing this all over, and you have to fight through those because you need to be consistent. If like me and Dan, we have to put up an episode each one of us, an episode every week. So it's 2 episodes per week. And there is a point, especially with Dan, where it's more like teaching technique. There's only so many techniques out there. So what do you do to keep yourself motivated into doing this, knowing that you're really not getting anything financially out of it? You just love it and you love to do it. And one of the things that's underrated is, like, I don't think a lot of people understand this. Me doing a podcast for kayak bass fishing has improved my kayak fishing experience. And I'm not just talking tournaments, just going out there on fun fishing, just talking to people, surrounding, having my mind occupied into what episode I'm going to have, who's my next guest, what are the questions. All those things keep your mind, actively thinking about kayak fishing and kayak bass fishing. And it inevitably shows up in the results when you're fishing out there.
I think a lot of it for me is I just don't mean to take over the show here either. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But I'm one of the kind of people where, like, I have to have something on my mind besides, a kind of a release from being a family man and being, and working and things like that. So just having fishing, being able to talk about it, being out on the water, whatever it is, that allows me to do everything else in my life to the best I can, to the best of my ability. I need that other outlet to keep my brain from spinning out of control. So, yeah, so it's I love doing it, so.
Absolutely. So what goals do y'all have for the podcast network, for your individual podcasts, for you as individuals, like for this year and beyond, going on with this new venture?
Oh, no. Just keep doing it, man. I don't,
To me, I would say
goals, Armando. What's our goals here?
We would love to partner up with other companies just to at least offset the cost, and build relationships. make a good name for yourself out there. If I personally I don't have a plan for this to substitute my current job, or the job actually that I plan to be doing in the next few months. This is just something that I enjoy doing it. So to me, as long as I keep enjoying doing it, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah,
And
Armando's retired, by the way.
I'm retired from. I'm currently working on getting started on my second career, but I'm currently retired. But to me, it's not. I'm not doing this for the money. And to me, I wanna make sure that I'm putting, at least even if it's just a grain of salt, into something, into a community and a sport that to me it's special. And I've said this 100 times. People that listen to my podcast probably can attest to this. One of the things that I love about kayak fishing is how much it can help your emotional state, like Dan said. And one of the proudest things that I have on my podcast is having so many people that suffer from PTSD, that are served in military, and kayak fishing and kayak bass fishing has been an outlet for them, like that pressure relief button, that therapy, to kind of help them, deal with everything that all the scars of what they've lived before. And like I said before, you don't have to be serving the military and have to go to war battles to have, PTSD or battle depression. It could happen to any one of us. And even to avoid, like Dan said, I may not suffer from depression, but maybe if I'm not doing this, at some point I will. It's one of those things. It keeps you healthy mentally in your soul, and to be part of that and help it grow, it's something that I enjoy doing it. Whether it doesn't matter if I'm making money out of it or if I'm getting sponsors or not. Like I said, it would be nice to kind of help cover the cost, but more importantly is to introduce people to this wonderful community, this wonderful sport, and knowing at the end of the day that I did something to help this community and this sport grow organically.
Absolutely.
Well said.
That's awesome. And one of the things I really love about the way your two shows mesh is, like you said, you could have the same person on back to back, and it's like, this is who I am, this is how I fish, and it's such an awesome way to like just kind of get the whole angler in and who they are and what they're good at.
I'm going to find out how they fish, and Armando's going to get in their soul.
Most definitely. Yeah. So, Robert, I've kind of been taking over here. If you.
No, you're good. I always love having other podcasters on because it makes your podcast pretty easy when everybody doesn't have a problem stepping up and talking. And, sometimes you get people on that you have to do a little bit of spoon feeding, but I love having other podcasters on. Yeah. I guess
come on the show if you wasn't going to talk, man.
Yeah, exactly. I guess my question would be, kind of what's your guys' fishing goals? I know, I saw Armando, you placed pretty high up in a couple of tournaments last year, and Dan, you were doing, I believe the KFL stuff, but I'm not sure you stepped away from that.
Well, the KFL blew up yesterday. It imploded.
Oh, did it? I didn't even see.
Yeah.
What do you mean it imploded? I didn't know that. What are you talking about?
It's
KFL is gone?
It has dissolved.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really?
There was a whole lot of drama. Greg Nosar's out, and the KFL has collapsed.
I did not know that.
Oh, now I get why KBF is doing that little team thing.
Yeah, well, it's all of a sudden it's like, we can, everything we said was right. But it was, when I think here's the whole crux of the problem with the KFL. It's the most fun format to fish. It's the most you'll learn from other people in your group because you're learning exactly how they dissect water on the same exact day as what you do. And they want you to do well because you're on the same team. At least teams that were successful. So there's no way to learn more quicker than KFL. There's nothing that's funner. There's nothing that's more stressful, because if you're at the end of the day and you sucked it up and you didn't catch a fish and you let your team down, it feels awful. However, whenever you give, like, if it's organized like the NFL, right? You have the commissioner and then you have all these teams. The commissioner has a lot of leverage over each one of the teams of the owners, because they can enforce strict penalties. That's not possible in the it was never possible in the KFL. So the only real penalty is to kick you out. So it's not like we're going to take X amount of money from you or we're going to do this. So I will say the rules were definitely, this year they were going to have a lot better rule set. They were having a really great committee of rules, so that problem was going to be resolved. But the issue of having 25 different owners is too many cooks in the kitchen is really what it was. So people can say whatever they want. I was behind the scenes 2 years. I know exactly what happened and how much hard I wasn't going to do it this year because I wanted to chase some other things, but I know exactly how much time and effort Greg Nosar put into that league. I'm talking, he probably spent 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day every single day doing KFL stuff, whether I was shows, odds, whatever it was, trying to make it interesting, rules, talking to different owners, sponsors. I saw how much he did behind the scenes, and God bless that guy, because he really he did his best to create something for this sport that was different and interesting and fun. And I really commend him, man. I hate it didn't work out. I hate it didn't, whatever the obstacles or the hurdles or the things that went wrong, just the amount of effort and the vision that he had. That guy's a friend to me, and I really I respect him forever for what he did for the KFL. Yeah, I hate it didn't work out.
And
right.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Okay, that's right. All the guys around here, that there's a lot of local guys on the casters and the Tar Heel Lunkers, and I mean all those dudes just have nothing but great things to say about the format and just the whole team atmosphere. And they're like, dude, it's the most fun that you'll ever have. And, so I hate to hear that, because I really enjoyed, and I was one of the few people, if I was doing stuff on Saturday morning, I would flip it on YouTube and, or on, Facebook and watch the streams. Yeah, I hate to hear that. And anything that's that big and has that many moving pieces, somebody's spending a ton of time. So I was hoping that would work out as well. But
yeah,
it was really hard for him to, not trying to turn us into a KFL show, but it was hard. Like, he could give out so much responsibility to different people, but at the end of the day, they weren't getting anything out of it to put in enough, to be invested enough to do it the way that he would do it. So it's not like he could really give out a bunch of jobs and people just do it. And he tried to do that with some of the owners, but it just, it didn't work out the way. If there was a lot more money involved, it would have. I think it probably would have been more successful. But it was good. I mean, we won last year. We won $32,000. It was amazing. I had a great time. It was awesome, and at least and this was a traveling trophy that was
the winner in all this is Dan.
The Stanley Cup. This is always Dan's now. They'll never
the
get
real
this
winner.
from Dan.
I love it.
Yeah,
Robert, I don't want to forget what you asked, but before I do answer that question, I do want to say, in respect to the KFL and Greg Nosar, I know and this is something that I hate, that it inevitably goes to this route when people start making the jokes and the hating on the comments and pointing fingers. Greg Nosar is a great human being. He's a great guy. He's a business guy that didn't have a lot of experience in kayak fishing or kayak bass fishing tournament. And he decided to pursue this dream. And he started with KBBT. And KBBT really helped elevate this sport in the middle of a pandemic where we couldn't do live tournaments. KBBT was all the rage. You can compete one-on-one.
First one.
Yeah, you can compete one-on-one against somebody else. And it was a bracket tournament. It came at the right time. And I'm not going to say it saved kayak bass fishing, but it helped kayak bass fishing tournaments stay relevant, where Bassmasters, Hobie BOS, and KBF couldn't do tournaments because of that, of the pandemic and the rules and all that, and the lockdown, whatever you want to call it. After that, he embarked on KFL, where nobody had done this before. Brand new format. He's a trailblazer for this, and he took it far further than anybody would have anticipated. And of course, like anybody else, like Chad Hoover, like AJ McWhorter, like Steve Owens, everybody makes mistakes, and he's not immune to it, especially with somebody considering that didn't have the experience that some of these other people have. But yet he forged through. He worked tirelessly to grow this and to bring enjoyment to the people that love this format. And that should be his legacy, not pointing out perceived failures, because I don't think there's any failure to this. What he did was awesome, and it's sad that it couldn't continue, but I think Greg Nosar can look in the mirror and be proud of what he accomplished, and all of us in the kayak fishing community should be appreciative of having Greg Nosar in the kayak fishing community and what he did, regardless of how you feel about the format, regardless of what you feel about the decisions that he made, whether you agree with him or not. The fact that somebody, an entrepreneur, a businessman that could have made a lot more money doing something else, sacrificed so much of his time to make money, to instead invest in the kayak fishing community, time away from his families, his kids, tirelessly working, should be applauded. And we need more people like Greg Nosar to invest in the kayak fishing community and the tournaments. And everybody should be thankful and appreciative of Greg Nosar for what he done. And I just wanted to get that out there, because I have a huge amount of respect for what he did.
That's why I partnered with this guy. He is so good. Look.
No, seriously, I know he gets a lot of hate, and I know I've talked to Greg Nosar, and I know how much, and I just hate to say, like, these guys trying to build something. Whether you agree with it or not, he's trying to build something that is good.
Imagine if everybody would have been behind it.
Yes.
Like everybody would have supported it and said, you know, instead of trying to tear something down or poke holes, or even people, the dude built a sport. A whole new format, a whole new rules.
In the middle of a pandemic.
A schedule, a team, sponsors. Imagine, I don't have the balls to even come close to doing anything like that. Seriously, he's
awesome, a trailblazer in also televising it, through Twitch. It's not the Bassmaster being televised on Fox Sports, but at least he's trying. He's trying to get this out there.
And those first steps of streaming stuff online is the first steps in some of these bigger trails, figuring out that is the way. I mean, that's going to happen at some point in kayak bass fishing tournaments. Is they're going to be streamed or they're going to be on TV. And to me, I think it's going to be better to watch that than the big boat tournaments. And then the other thing I'll say about why I'm sad that KFL is no longer is because every week in our local trails, it took probably 8 to 10 anglers out of the running. So now they're going to be right back in the mix. So,
But to answer your question, Robert, because I don't want to forget about that. At least my goal is on tournaments is try to win or place in a national, at least earn a check in some national trail tournament, win a local tournament, qualify for the TOC, and just have fun and grow and learn. That's the most important thing. As far as my content creation, just grow the brand, Bass Kayak and Beers, make more YouTube channels, more YouTube videos, which I'm trying to do. And as far as me personally, within the space of kayak fishing, I always try to at least catch 5 fish every time I go out. That to me is the goal. If I didn't catch 5 fish, then I mean, I feel like I could have done better. But I mean, that's not always going to happen. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say I wasted my time fishing because I didn't catch 5 fish. I'm still going to love it and enjoy it. But kind of like to add to that, it's just try to catch 5 fish every time I go out.
So Dan, I know that you're not doing the KFL, and you said you were going to pursue some other things. What are you trying to get accomplished this year?
I got a trophy this weekend. I got that one right there.
Oh, awesome!
Second place in the Battle of the Brands up on Gunnersville. I had 96 inches. Dang dude had 101.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the old Rattle Trap tournament, and they last year it took 96 inches, the same time of the year, and I was the first person out of the money last year, but I caught 96 inches, like, yeah, doing good. And this guy, he would have beat, because it was also a boat side to it too. And there was like 250 boats. He would have beat all them too. So wow. He just had this, mega bag. But yeah, congrats to him. I wasn't even mad because he did it earlier in the day too. So by like 1 o'clock, I think they shut it down, the standings at 2. So by 1 o'clock, I knew
you're not catching.
I ain't going to catch 101. I'm going for second here. But yeah, great time. Honestly, I want to lose some weight. That's just me personally. Like, I'm having a kid and everything else. I just have an office job nowadays. I'm just not as active as what I used to be. So for me, I want to lose. By the end of this year, I have a certain weight I want to get to. And I've been working on that. I've lost a couple. Can you tell? Mm-hmm. But so I want to drop a few LBs, and there's a few things I'm not good at. Like, if I go on a lake, I feel like, lake or backwater type stuff, I'm good. I'm going to catch them. If it's moving water or like moving skinny water, like like creek type stuff, which around here plays, especially in the summer. I mean, it's hard to win a tournament unless you're up a creek in the summer here in Alabama. So, like, I really feel like that's a weak suit for me. So, and there's a couple techniques like jerk bait, a couple other things I want to really get more proficient at this year. And so that's really my goal, is to fish. I'm fishing Iron City Kayak Anglers, which is the trail I help run here locally. Coleman Kayak Anglers, which is another trail kind of locally, like an hour away. We kind of overlap a little bit. And then there's a new trail called AKAT, Alabama Kayak something tour. And it's a kind of $100 top-up event over 5 events across different clubs in Alabama. Okay. So this year, all the clubs in Alabama got together because Tennessee's so good at it.
Yeah.
Me and a bunch of, and not just me, but clubs from all over the state, we got together. None of our events this year overlap in the state of Alabama, except for one club, because they only fish on Gunnersville, smaller club. It's Yak and Grass. Joe Drowns runs it. Great guy, great tournament series. We couldn't fit that one in, but every other trail, we're either doing joint events, and then there's that top-up event on top of that. So it's going to be the biggest local tournaments across the state that we've ever had. And everybody's able to fish more of them because none of them overlap. So I really want to put in more effort into Alabama this year and fishing locally, getting healthier and kind of filling in a couple of little gaps I have of techniques. And then hopefully I'll, take this show on the road next year, baby. Get some in big checks. We'll see. It's tough. I got a 6-year-old too, like.
Oh yeah.
He does travel hockey, and I just, I really want to be. The most important thing to me is being a good dad. So, my fishing's going to come second, 99% of the time. So yeah, that too. It's tough.
For sure. And what about faith goals? Do y'all have any faith goals that y'all are shooting for this year?
Dude, that tournament had me in fishing last Sunday, so I was a heathen and stayed out of the church. So I'm trying not to fish in heathen tournaments anymore. Uh, just for me, it's always a struggle for me because it's difficult for me to always commit to going to church. So I would say that would probably be my goal, because I have such a good pastor who cares, him and his wife. I mean, they run it together, and it's a small church, and they care so much about my faith and my family's faith, and care about us. I've never had that before, and just really wanting to be close, feel closer, and just do the best I can, I guess, in all facets of life: fishing, faith, family, the whole deal.
Absolutely. What about you, Armando?
Well, to me, like, that's number one thing in my life, my faith. And I'm not, I don't like to brag about that or say, because, at the end of the day, faith comes from within, and it's not to show off, right? It's just your personal relationship with your creator. But it is the most important thing in my life. I don't have kids. So to me, my faith is what has always helped me throughout difficult times in my life. And I've always and I always have this struggle with my conscience sometimes, where I think especially with the podcast and everything, I'm just like, man, I should do more with my faith and be more proactive. And by that, I mean doing what's not community service. What's the word that I'm looking for? Voluntary service for the church. I conducted a Bible study with a young gentleman, divorced with 2 kids, and he got baptized, and we finished the Bible study. And the hope is that when you help somebody achieve their faith goal, that they don't it's just like fish. You never stop learning from your faith, and it always is with you. So it's nice to have that feeling of helping somebody get their life on track, not because of my wisdom or my talking ability or my power of convincing. It's because relying and leaning on what the Bible and my Christian belief and God's teachings is. Because I've always said, it's when I help somebody, it's not me. It's just, you feel honored and privileged to be used as an instrument for people to learn, not about me, but about God, and to make changes in their lives. So to me, one of the goals is, it's been a while since I've had a Bible student or I've taught a Bible course, and I would love to get back to that, because honestly, and I'm not making this up, it's such a gratifying feeling when you see people make changes in their lives, and start turning their life around, and knowing that you, again, not because of you, but because you were an instrument that God used to help out this person. It's a great feeling, and it strengthens my faith too, knowing that I helped somebody. So to me, one of the things that I put in one of my goals, not New Year's resolution, but just a goal in general that I have, is for read the Bible every day, whether it's in the morning, it's just a Bible verse, not just read it, but kind of study it in the background. Even if I have to get just one verse, I don't have to read a whole chapter. I can just read one verse and kind of study it. What does this mean? What is this message that's trying to convey on this verse is more important than just reading and reading and reading. So that's short term. That's one of the goals that I have personally, and more long term is dedicate more time to voluntary service on the church and help out somebody that through Bible studies or Bible courses to help turn around their lives or continue. Because you get as in saying the podcast, sometimes in your own faith, you get into this rut where you have to do something to kind of keep yourself motivated.
Oh, absolutely. All right, y'all. That is awesome. Robert, did you want to add anything or ask anything before we jumped into what's your favorite?
Oh, no, go ahead.
All right. So we've got, I know y'all have already done what's your favorite once before. We've got a new set of questions for you. Robert, I just texted it to you so that you have the list. You don't have to dig for it. But yeah, so we'll jump into that right after this. If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their fly caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water, or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your fly caddy today and use promo code faithnfish15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order.
All right, for those of you watching on YouTube, I just realized that I had the wrong promo code up on the Atollas ad, so I apologize for that. I will get that fixed before the next video, but use the code that you hear, not the one that you see. Anyways, Robert, you want to get us started?
Yeah, we're just going to go with the ones you texted, or you want to do what do you normally talk about?
Do the ones that I texted.
So we're going to go. Dan, we'll start with you. Favorite character from the Bible, and then Armando, you can follow it up after he gets done.
Zebedee, because he was the father of the fishermen. Man, he was yeah. I love that guy's name, Zebedee.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
For me, let me see. I read the Bible in Spanish, so sometimes I know the names are different. Pedro, I think it's Peter, right? In English, it's Peter. Yeah. So Peter, just because A, he was a fisherman as well, but B, because, and actually B, because of fisherman, A, because just like me, sometimes his emotions got the best of him. Like he would act first and think second. And I love that Jesus was so patient with him. Because sometimes I feel guilty of, wearing my emotions on my sleeve or acting before I thinking, but knowing that Jesus kind of like still, he got resurrected. He made sure to have a private conversation in Peter and let him know, hey, I know you deny me 3 times, but I understand, like you're going to be the, again, I read the Bible in Spanish, so I'm trying to think what's the word, the cornerstone of Christianity. And I think I think that's what it says in English. But just knowing Peter, because I think I relate to him a lot in that, in kind of like his shortcomings.
Yeah. He's a super relatable disciple for sure. All right. So Armando, I'm really excited to hear your response to this, because like you said, you read the Bible in Spanish. So your favorite translation of the Bible?
Again, in Spanish, I read it in Spanish.
Would it be like the Reina Valera or?
Reina Valera is it's a nice, it's old, in Spanish, like Old English. I think I forgot what in English that's the
It
forgot
would
the
be like
name
the
of it in
King
English.
James.
King James version, yeah, it's
Right.
like the King James version. Dan, go ahead first while I try to look it up in English. So if you don't mind answering that one first, Dan.
My favorite translation?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, so I think it's called New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures. I love it because they recently updated, and let me correct what I'm saying, not correct, but let me clarify that it's not that they changed what it says, but it basically is words that we use now. You know,
Right.
when you read the King James version, it's beautiful, but to
Yeah.
understand it, it's like, what is he talking about? So the New World Translation is up to date with current words, so it's a lot easier to understand. Even in English, even the few times that I do read it in English, it's a lot easier to understand and comprehend. When you comprehend it, it goes, it kind of like makes it easier to love it. I guess
It's
gets to your heart.
I love to hear King's James in church, but that's not where I read because I'm from Mississippi, man. I need it to be easy. I read a lot of study Bibles because I need somebody to break things down for me. Like just me, like yes, I'm usually reading study Bibles, and I seldom ever just read the Bible alone because I enjoy. I like the help. There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. Let's go with what's your favorite book of the Bible? Dan, you can start. And Armando, you can follow.
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite. I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't have a favorite. I've never thought about it. I don't know if I have a favorite. I'm sorry.
That's good.
I am terrible at questions.
Maybe Dan's gonna be my new Bible course student.
Yeah, hey, I mean,
Not kidding. I'm playing with you, Dan. Final answer, Dan?
no, I don't have a favorite. I really don't.
I think growing up, again in Spanish, letters to Timothy. There's ones that we call them. There's 66 books, but really some of them are just letters. Most of the, of the Paul's are not really books, it's just letters. But the letters to Timothy when I was growing up, because it really shows how Paul helped Timothy, being a young man, to kind of grow into his role. But I think, man, growing up, now that I'm older, you know which ones I really enjoy? Well, the Gospels I love, of course. But other than the Gospels, the life of David, I'm still amazed that you see so many epic historical movies and nobody has kind of made a movie of David. Like his whole life is the biggest drama you could ever think of. Like I was reading not that long ago, and I was telling my wife. So a lot of people know the story of Goliath and David, right? What a lot of people don't know, there was a lot of bad blood between what's the name of that tribe in Goliath in English?
The Philistines.
The Philistines, right? Spanish is solo filisteo. So, but he had, I think it was a cousin or a family member, and he was just as tall as Goliath. And I tried to remember. I think that historical reference is in two different books in the Old Testament. But he was just as tall as Goliath, and he had 12 fingers and 12 toes. Like he was, and he had it out for David. Like he wanted to kill David. And it's not this long drawn out story, but it does mention in the Bible in two different books that how that bad blood didn't end there. Like Goliath's family, cousins, and all that, they had it out for David, and eventually they suffered the same fate. But just David's life story, it's just crazy what that man lived through. It's just,
Yeah, I guess a rated R Bible movie is a hard sell.
That's wouldn't be rated PG or PG-13.
All right. Let's get a couple fishing questions here. Your favorite time of day to fish? And Armando, you can start.
Early morning. Sun rising. First light.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Seeing the sun come up, that's half of a reason being out there. Just enjoying creation, and yeah.
All right. If you had to pick one lure color, what would be your favorite lure color?
Damn.
Doesn't matter who starts.
Dan, you go first.
Green pumpkin blue.
Ooh, that's a good one. Are we talking to soft plastics or black and blue? Black and blue. I can do a black and blue jig. I can do a black and blue jackhammer. I can do a black and blue Senko, and I know I would catch all three of them.
Right now, it's something with orange, green pumpkin orange.
Yeah. If I had to pick just one.
Whenever the water is below 60 in the spring, it's got to have orange.
For sure. Yeah. It's interesting asking that question because you can tell like what their style is by if they say green pumpkin, they're throwing something soft plastic. If they're like fire tiger, they're a hard bait guy.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see like how people answer that question for sure.
It really surprised. It seems like the more I've interviewed people, I've interviewed a lot of people lately who don't carry many soft plastics at all. And that blows my mind because I have so many. Really? You don't carry any?
I carry some, but I don't carry near as much as I used to. Most of what I've got tied on now has a treble hook on it. I mean,
wow.
I kind of found my groove and just kind of stuck with it.
If I showed you how many soft plastics I carry with me, you wouldn't believe it. I promise. You would not believe it. Yeah. I talked to Cody Milton, and he's like, "Nah, I don't have any soft plastics. Everything's got metal." I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?"
And we're talking about one of the best kayakers.
Yeah.
I've had him on my episode and asked him what bait he not hates but doesn't like to throw. When he said a Texas rig, I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, we're not talking about somebody that's just a weekend warrior. Like, this is one of the best anglers, and he will not throw, or at least avoids throwing a Texas rig.
Like,
and
I don't know how
he's great at bed fishing too.
Yeah, I don't know how he does some things.
He breaks the mold in so many ways.
For sure. All right, so these next two questions don't have anything to do with faith or fishing, but they're super important. What is your favorite pizza topping?
I'll bet you Armando says something weird.
Wow. Why would I say something weird? Explain yourself. Why would I say something weird? I'm interested to know. Why would I say something weird?
Because I would imagine it would be something how you grew up.
Because I'm Latino and
Don't do it like that. You're from Puerto Rico. I don't know what they put on pizza there. I thought it would be different than what continental U.S. uses.
I know what it is.
Hey, come on. Maybe I'll put I don't know, who knows, man? Like polenta. What's the hard bananas?
Plantains?
Yeah.
No, I don't put plantains.
Wait, I don't know. I have never been
so
to Puerto Rico.
racial profile. I would put plantains on my. God, Jesus. I'm currently looking for another podcast host. Cam, Robert, are any of you available? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Dan. Answer your question. Let's not make it about me.
You haven't answered the question.
It's your first,
plantains, isn't it?
No, it's not.
What is it?
Well, you answer your first. You answered first, and instead of talking about what you would put, talk about what I would put. So go ahead, answer what you would put.
Bacon. I like
Yeah.
bacon on pizza. I mean,
Yeah.
Canadian bacon.
no,
On anything.
no, absolutely not. No, like bacon. I'm not Canadian. Get out of here, Canadian bacon. That's awful.
My favorite topping, plantains. No, I'm just kidding.
I honestly, I thought it would be something like seafood.
No, I hate seafood on my pizza. I never put seafood on. Seafood does not belong on pizza.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
And neither does pineapple, by the way. But I don't.
No, I do like I like a Hawaiian. I get into that. A deep dish Hawaiian, I like.
A deep dish. Look at this guy. That's not a pizza. Have you ever seen? Before I answer, you have to see
Detroit style pizza. It's
Detroit.
awesome.
I thought it was Chicago.
I don't really like Chicago.
Have you ever seen? You all know Jon Stewart from The Daily Show, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever seen that 8-minute clip of him going off on deep dish pizza because he's from New York, so he loves the New York style? Oh my God, that is one of the most hilarious clips I've ever seen. That guy is hilarious. But anyways, man, I was gonna say bacon, but Dan took it. You know what? Okay, I'll say this, and God, I'm gonna hate myself for this because this is gonna prove Dan's point. Spanish chorizo, not Mexican chorizo, but Spanish chorizo, like made in Spain. So
you'll see where I'm from South Mississippi, and lived in New Orleans, so a lot of the food that I eat would be weird because it's from where I'm from. You are originally from Puerto Rico. It's not weird that you would have something on your pizza that would be different than what I would have grown up with.
I still think it's wrong, but it's okay.
That's a reasonable thing to say. Get out of here.
I'm playing, but no. If you ever get a chance, they don't sell them here, but we had in Puerto Rico Spanish chorizo. I'm not saying Mexican chorizo, Spanish from like Little Spain. And it goes. That's an amazing topping on pizza.
You just tried to be fancy with Spanish stuff.
No, it is. It's good. It's not a fancy sausage.
I got like Exxon grease on my lens. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. All right, Armando, we'll start you off with this one. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Wow. Man. I don't know if I can pick one. Can I divide them into subcategories like sitcoms,
Spanish soap operas? So yeah, I gotta keep going now.
I've gotten on a binge of watching reels of Mexican soap operas. It's hilarious. Man.
Those women are beautiful, by the way.
Yeah. The problem is I used to go to this lady that's a Mexican lady here in Texas, and she did my haircut, and she would have Spanish soap operas, Mexican soap operas on the TV. And I would get like that
novellas.
Bastard novellas. Marcos cheating on Gabriela. Bastard. No, I'm kidding. Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna go with the sitcom from the 80s and 90s. Cheers. I used to love Cheers. That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Awesome. Dan,
favorite TV show?
Duck Dynasty.
No, probably. I'm like if I'm because they usually don't last. It'd have to be Seinfeld. I could
really.
I could sit down right now and watch Seinfeld. Yeah. Oh, I'd love Seinfeld.
Really.
Like once. No. I take it back.
No, you can't.
No, I absolutely can. Band of Brothers.
That was a TV. Oh yeah, from HBO, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, that's good.
I go back and watch it usually once a year, once every other year, and they actually have like a tour. You can go to France and Bastogne, and it starts at Market Garden up in the Netherlands, and you can go all the way through, do a whole tour that they did. That would be awesome. But yeah, Band of Brothers and then Seinfeld.
I'm still shocked that people.
All three good.
I'm one Seinfeld. That's
what?
Funny. Just messing with you.
It's still funny. It holds up. It always holds up.
That's my wife's favorite show. I'm like, some episodes I like, some others I don't get it. But
I'm sorry for you,
Armando. I haven't made it all the way through Cheers, but I love Cheers because my favorite TV show is a spinoff of Cheers.
Frasier.
Frasier. Yeah.
That was funny too.
That
What
was
I love
good,
about Cheers, it went on so long, and even though they lost like key characters, like the coach died, and then Woody Harrelson. Who would have thought Woody Harrelson, that goofy kid in that show, would reach the stardom that he reached? And then Christy Alley substituted for what was the name of?
Rest in peace.
What was the name of? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, the lady from the Money Pit.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite comedy movies as well. Sherry Allen? No, what's her name? I forgot.
Shelley Long.
Shelley Long, something like that.
Right.
But yeah, so
That's right.
Norm was my favorite character. That was my favorite one.
Norm.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, we are going to start wrapping things up. I don't know about there in the central time zone, but here in the eastern side of this,
It's really late. Yeah.
It's starting to get late. But if you would let us know what's coming up for y'all. Shout out your socials. Thank sponsors and supporters, all that good stuff.
Armando, go ahead, man.
Well, y'all can follow me on Bass Kayak and Beers, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. I have the segment called The Real Life on the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast. That actually was every Monday. We are now switching to a live show on Thursday, so you can watch us live on Thursdays. When is this episode airing, Cam?
This episode is going to air, I think, 3 weeks from now.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea who I'm going to have 3 weeks from now.
Or
but
2 weeks from now, something like that.
All right. So, but every Thursday you can check us out at 7:30 Central. We'll have a live show with a guest, usually a tournament angler or content creator. And shout out to sponsor Douglas Outdoors. Go check out their amazing rods. That's all the rods that I use. I love them. I think they are great rods. I don't like to be one of those absolutes that say, "Oh, this is the best rod in the world," or to each his own. But what I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, is the quality of those rods is amazing.
Awesome, Dan.
On social media, you can find me everywhere. Daniel Perry Fishing, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I'm Daniel Perry, Hoover, Alabama.
Fans only.
Only fans.
Only fans.
No.
Damn Perry's feet.
Come on, man. Just advanced kayak angler under Bass Kayak and Beers. If you're in the Alabama area, check out Bucks Island Marine. They got Hobies and Jackson. That's their thing. And bass boats if you're into that. X-Zone Lures. Huh?
Ooh.
Yeah. They got skaters, though. They do look really good. X-Zone Lures, Gadget, and Z-Pro Lithium.
Awesome. And, I think that was everything I had for this. Robert, you have anything you want to add or ask before we go?
No, I'm good to go, man.
Awesome. Well, y'all, thank you so much for coming on the show. On the show. It's been a blast, and it's always fun having other podcasters on where I can just kind of sit back and listen and let y'all roll with it, and it's always fun to have buddies on that can banter and everything too. That adds a whole nother element to it. So
and put plantains on your pizza. I guess I need to get a favorite Bible verse. I didn't know it was necessary.
Read the Lord's words.
I didn't. I don't have a favorite. All right.
That's gonna be his goal for next podcast. When he comes in, he'll have a favorite for his favorite. I'm just kidding.
No, I start at the front and work my way to the back. Whenever I finish, I start over. I don't. Oh well, I'm gonna read Job today. That ain't how I do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, y'all.
Thanks, man.
Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Save Your Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SaveYourOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SaveYourOutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15. Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality, handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years, right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, Owner and Gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code faithnfishnpod1x10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's faith the letter N, fish the letter N, P-O-D, so Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1x10.
Another huge thank you to Dan and Armando for coming on the show. And I apologize for cutting y'all off with that ad. But yeah, Robert, another awesome episode. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I guess really my biggest takeaway, and I kind of had a feeling it was going to be like this with those two guys on. Really, those, you hear people talk about kayak fishing and the sport of kayak fishing, kayak bass fishing, and all the good people that are involved in it, all the different things that go on, and all the camaraderie. But you won't find two better dudes than those two guys that we just had on. And they're not doing anything for, really to get themselves ahead. I really feel like that they're doing things to promote the sport in all aspects. And that's just, I don't know. It's hard to even put into words. And I was started to go down that, rabbit hole, quote unquote, while they were on there, to just talk about, some of the good things, some of the good people in the sport of kayak bass fishing. But if you haven't listened to their podcast and you don't know them, get to know them, listen to their podcast. You won't find a couple of better dudes.
Absolutely. And something that really shines through their podcast together. And I felt like, especially this podcast is their brotherhood, that brotherhood that they've built, that friendship and relationship. That's just kind of, like you said, that's what the sport of kayak fishing is all about. That's what, that's what, our faith is all about. It's that connecting with others and building those relationships and that brotherhood. So, yeah, absolutely awesome to have them on. Make sure that you go check out Bass Kayak and Beers to hear their shows. Again, Armando does the Real Life podcast that is, like I said, it's about getting to know the angler, their story, who they are. And then Dan does the Advanced Kayak Angler. So if you really want to dive into everything there is to know about shaky heads or anything like that, check them out. And do you have anything else to add to this one?
No, man, I'm good.
All right, man. Well, go ahead and sign us out, man.
Hey, thanks for watching, and thanks for tuning in to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. God bless. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph, and is sponsored by Save Your Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, Follow us on Instagram and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.